All right, and we are finally live after a fucking shit ton of technical issues. Let's hope nothing happens. Either way, if the video doesn't work, then I'll be doing the audio. Anyway, if you missed that before, so I didn't have time to do a full collaborative podcast today because of Mother's Day, and I was very busy. So today I'm just going to run through it all by myself. It'll be a bit of a shorter podcast, but I think it's going to be a really, really good one. There's some really great things that I get to talk about today. So we might as well just get straight into it. I'm just going to take a drink, get my topics ready, and then we'll start. People on iTunes won't hear this. Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk podcast. This is episode 8. My name is Christian Doyle. I am the lead guitar player and the songwriter in the progressive rock band Sevsons. I am also the sole member of the emo punk band Cross the Line, who will have our debut EP out later this year. For those of you who don't know, the Let's Talk podcast is all about rock and metal, or just anything in music really, if it relates to rock and metal. And basically what we're going to do today is we're going to run through a whole bunch of singles that were released today, as well as going through some of the shows that I went to this week, give a brief overview of some of the albums that came out this week, and then just talk about what's coming up in the week ahead. Thanks to everyone tuning in right now on YouTube and on iTunes. It always means a lot. If you're on iTunes, please make sure you hit subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. That'd be really, really great. And also, if you're on the YouTube and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do that. I also want to send a really big thank you to everybody who came and said hello at the shows that I was at this weekend. It's always really weird for me when people come up and say they recognize me from YouTube, considering I am such a small channel, but it was really cool to meet everybody who came up and said, hey, so thank you for that. So let's go through what we're going to talk about today. Today we are talking about the new singles from Milk Teeth, Steven Wilson, 18 Visions, and Miss May I. And as I said already, we're going to run through the two shows that I went to this week, which were Architects and All Time Low. I'm going to give a brief little overview of the albums that I reviewed this week by Paramore and DREAMCAR, and then just talk about what I'm going to be reviewing this week and what we can expect on the podcast next week if there's a lot to talk about on that front. So let's get straight into it. First thing we're going to talk about today. This week, Milk Teeth released a new track titled Owning Your Okayness. They also announced that they have signed to Roadrunner Records and will be releasing a new EP titled Be Nice, which will be out on July 28th of this year. Now, Milk Teeth, are a band that kind of passed me by. When I was listening to the That's Not Metal podcast a long time ago, they were all over their first record called Vile Child, I'm pretty sure it's called. And I don't know, I'm not sure what mindset I was in when I first listened to that record, but it just didn't connect with me and I didn't love it. But then when I heard they had released a new track, before I listened to it, I went back and I listened to Vile Child again. And my God, what a great record that is. I'm so sad that I didn't check it out earlier. And it definitely would have been in my top 20 albums of last year if I'd actually given it the time of day. So that was really disappointing for me at first, but I'm also very glad that I got to discover this band. And so this week they released a new track. It's called Owning Your Okayness, out on Roadrunner Records, new EP out in July. And this track is probably the best thing they've ever done. This track is absolutely great. So catchy. And my God, punk rock is having such a resurgence over this last year. It's just so good to hear. These guys have a lot of grunge influence in there, a style of music that I'm not really a fan of. They take a lot from Nirvana, really, which is a band that I don't really like, which I know is an unpopular opinion, but yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of Nirvana. But Milk Teeth just have something about them that is just so great. And this song is probably one of the better songs that has been released this year. And so I can't wait for this EP. I love the sound of their new male vocalist. For those of you who don't know, the previous male vocalist for Milk Teeth left the band just after the debut record was released. And so this new guy, I love his voice. It really sounds like old school Dookie Billy Joe Armstrong, and I love that. I think it sounds absolutely great. And this song, the melody is so catchy. The guitars just sound sludgy and dirty, and it just sounds like a raw song. I like that they've improved on the production qualities of the song. I think it adds a lot to their sound, but they haven't overdone it and made it completely polished, which is really, really great. So yeah, Milk Teeth coming out with a banger, probably the song of the summer. I mean, it's winter over here in Australia for me, but I know everywhere else it's summer. So this is definitely going to be one of the songs of the summer for everybody else. So Milk Teeth with an absolutely great track, and be ready for their new EP called Be Nice, which is going to be out in July. It's actually the first EP of 2 parts. The other part will be coming out later in the year as well. So yeah, great track from Milk Teeth. Moving on from that, Steven Wilson shocked me this week and released a new single. It is titled Pariah. It is the first single from his new record, which is going to be called To the Bone, and it's going to be out on August 18th. Now, for those of you who don't know, Steven Wilson is one of the real godfathers of progressive rock music. He wasn't by any means one of the first people to do it, but he was one of the first people to do it so expertly. If you don't know, he was originally the lead singer, main songwriter for Porcupine Tree. He's done other projects such as Blackfield and No Man, and I think it's Black Communication, if I'm right. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but ever since the incident, 2009's incident by Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson has been completely solo, and he's released 4 solo records. All of them have been absolutely phenomenal. The Raven That Refused to Sing, which was his 3rd solo record, is my favorite record of all time. I know that's such a big thing to say about it, but for me, it is my favorite record of all time. And so I was so excited to finally get the announcement of the new record, because I knew it was coming this year. I just didn't know when. And this first song, Pariah, is a duet between him and I'm blanking on her name right now. Give me 1 second. Ninette Tayeb, who was the female vocalist who was on Steven's last record, and Cannot Erase. And this is just such a beautiful ballad. It starts out so quietly and soft, and you start getting these really progressive elements getting thrown in here and there, especially before the chorus comes in, and then it just builds and builds to this final conclusion, which just sounds absolutely massive. Steven Wilson has always been really good at softer tunes. For me, his heavier stuff has always been something that connected with me a lot, but his softer side is something that is also really great. And this is probably, for me, it might be better than anything that was on Hand Cannot Erase, which is an album that I absolutely loved. But this song is just something else. It's one of the best songs he's ever written. It's a perfect song for the first single. I think it's going to throw a lot of people off because it's not that really weird experimental progressive rock that Steven Wilson is known for. It's very straightforward, but is still very much progressive rock. And I just love the song. The chorus is absolutely massive. Ninette has just one of the best female vocals on the planet. And I can't wait for this record. It's going to be, I think from what I remember, it's going to be 12 tracks long and an hour in length, which is just perfect for a Steven Wilson record. His albums always go for over an hour usually, and they're usually less than 12 tracks. But I did notice on that track listing, there's only one song that's like over 8 minutes, which is really interesting to me because he's known for his really long, expansive songs. But this record, I think, is going to be probably, it'll be shocking to me if it's not my album of the year. There's still records to come from Tesseract and just Carnival as well. So I could be completely wrong. But going off this first single, this is the first taste we get from this record. I'll be shocked if this is not my album of the year. It'd be absolutely incredible to me. So Steven Wilson putting out an absolutely phenomenal first single. If you like progressive music, or even if you just like really well-written music, just go and listen to that song. It's definitely not one of his longest. It's only about 4 minutes long, but definitely go and check out that song from, as this title of the podcast says, the Prog King is back. Next, let's talk about 18 Visions, who have released a new single from their upcoming new record, XV111. I'm not really going to try and decipher what that is in Roman numerals because I'm not great with Roman numerals, but 15, it's actually 18. Okay, cool. Their new record, 18, So the new single is called Crucified. The album's going to be out on June 2nd. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this is their first record in about a decade. And I've never actually listened to this band before, but I know they have a massive reputation in the heavy scene. But they're a band that have, again, just kind of passed me by. And listening to this song, it's only about 2 minutes long. It's really not my kind of thing. What I will say is that it doesn't really go anywhere. It kind of just does the same thing over and over and over again. There's no real songwriting skill to it. There's not much to the lyrics. In fact, for the first half of the song, he's just screaming crucified over the same riff. The riffs don't really progress. They kind of do something different here and there, but for the most part, it's the same riff for 2 minutes. And the vocals don't really do anything to stand out to me either. I know this band are pretty legendary, but for me, going off of this song, I don't really see why that is. I'm not sure why they're such a massive, massive band, but they must have been doing something right back 10 years ago, because on this song, they don't really show me anything particularly special. So there's not really much more for me to say about this song than that. Really, it was okay, and that's all there really is to it. So the new record's going to be out on June 2nd. If it's not a packed out week, then I will review it. If it is, then I'm happy to let this record pass me by, if I'm completely honest. Finally, as far as singles go, I'm going to talk about a song that was really highly requested to me on Twitter that I had no intention of listening to, but people wanted to hear me talk about it. So Miss May I this week have released a new track titled Shadows Inside. It's the title track from their upcoming record. I didn't actually look at what date their record is coming out, but from the release calendar that I've seen, I remember seeing that their record is coming out in a pretty stacked week. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get the chance to review this record, but I'm sure I will listen to it at some point. But anyway, this new track, Shadows Inside. You know what? Before I get into the track, let me talk about what the situation with this band I think is. And I think they're in a very similar situation to what Bullet for My Valentine are in. And by that, I mean, I really feel like this band are going to have to do something very, very impressive in order to stay relevant. Same with Bullet for My Valentine, because they're a band that honestly I've never really given the time of day. I've listened to their records and they've never really done anything for me, but I know that they're a very popular band. However, very much like Bullet for My Valentine, they've kind of been just going off what they've done in the past rather than really being revolutionary throughout their entire career. So I feel that Miss May I really need to impress on this new record in order to stay relevant and in order to really survive. So going into this song, I think it is pretty decent. As I said, it reminds me a lot of Bullet for My Valentine. I think the vocal hook in the chorus is really, really good, but as far as the riffing and everything goes, it's very conventional, very 2008 metal, and isn't really anything that stands out to me particularly. I will admit sorry about that. I will admit that I've only listened to this song about 3 or 4 times before I pressed record on this podcast, but you know, I think it's all right. It is the opening track on the record, which I don't think bodes well for the record, because you really want to impress on the first song, and this one doesn't really impress me all that much. But I don't think it's a bad song. I think it's pretty decent. If I get the time, I definitely will try and review the record, because this song actually does have me a little bit interested in it. It does sound very old school, and I do like old school heavy metal music. So I will try and review the record. But as for this song, I think it's all right, as I've already said. And it makes me a little intrigued for the record, but not enough to make me like, I have to put it on my review schedule. It hasn't done that for me. So I'll try and listen to more songs as they come out, and I'll decide a bit later if I'm going to review the record. But for now, that is my thoughts on the new Miss May I single titled Shadows Inside. So as I said, this is probably going to be a bit of a shorter podcast today, because there hasn't been a lot that's happened this week in terms of news. In fact, there's been 0 news this week. And it's just been those singles that have come out that have really stuck out and been something that I need to talk about. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of the live shows that I went to this week. So this week on Wednesday, I went and saw Architects supported by Ocean Grove at the Metro Theatre in Sydney. And last night, Saturday night, I went and saw All Time Low supported by Neck Deep and The Main at the Hordern Pavilion in Sydney. So first, let's talk about the Architect show. If you want a full review of both of these shows, make sure you head over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Christian Doyle Reviews. I have my full reviews on there. They're about 10 minutes long each. I'm about to shoot my All Time Low one, in fact, so I'm not going to go too in depth into these shows. If you want really in-depth analysis on these shows, go to those reviews. Once again, youtube.com/Christian Doyle Reviews. So let's first talk about the Architect show supported by Ocean Grove. Let's first talk about Ocean Grove, who were the first band I saw on the night. I know the show was opened up by Junkhead. I just didn't get the chance to see them. So for me, the show was opened by Ocean Grove, who put on a phenomenal performance. They played so many great songs from the Rhapsody tapes, and throughout the entire set, we're talking about how they're going to be coming back to Sydney later in the year to play the Rhapsody tapes in full, which is really, really exciting. Now, into their set, I think some real highlights of the set were the songs Beer, as well as Intimate Alien, These Boys Like Fires, and Mr. Centipede. Those were the real highlights for me, and I really loved how they added In Delight. From Delight into the set, which was a really cool song. It had the whole crowd singing along, even though it's a very simple song. It's kind of an interlude, but it worked really well in the live set and got everybody chanting the words to that song, which was really cool. So to get into Architects, I think they played a phenomenal set. As I said in my review earlier, they played majoritively from Lost Forever, and from All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us. The only song that wasn't from those two records was These Colors Don't Run, which was a great song to put into the set. They played it very early as well, which just got everybody really pumped up. Opening up with Nihilist was a really great thing to do, and closing with Gone with the Wind was just the perfect way to close out the show. As I said in my review before, I would have loved to have seen them play Memento Mori, but I understand why they don't do that, because I can imagine it's very hard for them to play or even listen to nowadays since Tom Sells passing. But they put on an absolutely phenomenal show. If you haven't seen Architects on this run, make sure you go and see them. I know they just wrapped up the Australian tour, but if you're going to any shows of the All Our Gods tour, definitely you're going to be in for a great show. And if you haven't bought tickets to any of the tours where they are playing this album, definitely go, because you will not be let down. They are probably the best live band in heavy music right now, and they put on a phenomenal show. Especially the lighting was absolutely incredible. So now to get into the show that I went to last night, Saturday night, I went and saw All Time Low at the Hordern Pavilion, supported by Neck Deep and Main. So opening up the show with the Main, who put on one of the best live shows I've seen in a long time. It was going to be hard for anybody to follow them. They played a very short set. It was about 7 songs long. They opened up with my favorite song of theirs, Black Butterflies and Deja Vu, which is just a perfect way to open up the set. They also played songs like Diet Soda Society, English Girls. They also played Girls Do What They Want, closed up with Bad Behavior. Just played a really great set. John was on fire as a frontman. He got everybody into the set. People who were sitting down in the seating area, he got standing up and really enjoying the show. Bringing a guy on for Girls Do What They Want to sing the final chorus was really cool. They put on an absolutely phenomenal show, just pure great rock music, and they just do it in the best way that anybody could hope you could do it. And going on next were Neck Deep, who had a lot to follow up from, because the Main really set the bar really high, and Neck Deep unfortunately could not meet that bar. They really, I think sound hindered them a lot. They didn't have the greatest sound. In fact, they were the only band of the night who didn't have good sound, which would have sucked for them. But really, all their songs just start to sound the same. And maybe that was because of the sound and you couldn't hear the intricacies of the music, but they really didn't put on an on an impressive show. They weren't really great with crowd interaction. Their frontman really doesn't do anything to get the crowd pumped up. The rest of the band do. The two guitarists were really energetic and really pumping the crowd up, but it's really the job of the frontman, and I don't think that he really did his job last night. He really just stood there and sung his songs and didn't really seem like he wanted to be there. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But then All Time Low came on, and they played an absolutely phenomenal set. Probably the best All Time Low set I've ever seen. The new song sounded absolutely massive live, bigger than I thought that they would sound live. They played Life of the Party, they played Last Young Renegade, and they played Dirty Laundry. Dirty Laundry was so much bigger live than I expected it to be, and Life of the Party was so much more rock-orientated live. You could really hear those guitars come through, and it sounded absolutely massive. And I was worried about whether Alex could sing that chorus live, and he absolutely nailed it. They pulled out a lot of rarities last night, which was really, really cool to see. They played Cinderblock Garden, which they don't play a lot of the time. They played Forget About It, which they said they haven't played in a very long time, and that was really cool to see. And they also played JC Ray, a song that they don't really play a lot. They don't really play anything from Put Up or Shut Up anymore, so it was really, really great to see that song come out. They actually opened the entire set with Weightless, which was just such a great thing to do. Just got everybody into the set straight away. They closed the main set with Take Cover, which is a song that I didn't expect to be a song that they'd play live. I thought it was just like a one-off thing for the straight to DVD too, but seems like it's now a very important song in their set, considering now it's closing up their main set. And then, of course, they came out. I actually didn't think they were going to play Lost in Stereo for a bit there, but then they opened up the encore with Lost in Stereo, which was really, really great. It was really, really refreshing to see a band of their size playing the biggest show they've ever played in Australia, and they brought the full production to Australia, which is something that not a lot of bands do, and that was really, really cool. They brought their entire lighting rig, full stage setup, and they've got one of the best lighting guys on the planet in Jeff Maker, and he did not disappoint last night. It was absolutely phenomenal. So my full review of this show will be up later on my YouTube channel. So that's all I have to say about it for now. I'm just going to tease you a little bit with that. But yeah, a really, really great show from All Time Low, and I'm just going to take a quick drink. So let's quickly go over what I reviewed this week on my YouTube channel. It was very 80s orientated this week, with Paramore and DREAMCAR both releasing records. Paramore's new record, is called After Laughter. It is a record that I thought was really, really good. I've seen, since my review's gone out, I've seen a lot of people saying that they're not really digging the new sound. I think I'm in a quite special position where this is kind of the sound that I expected them to do. So I was kind of preparing for this over 4 years. I think a lot of people expected them, with Zach Farrow coming back, to go back to more of the Riot brand new eyes type of sound. They definitely don't do that. They're doing something very new with their sound. And I, for one, appreciated it. I do think the second half of the record is quite weak compared to the first half of the record, but having the closing track, Tell Me How, such a brilliant way to close out a record. And the first 6 songs for me are just absolutely great. So it's a really, really good record. If you want to go check it out, just go and check it out. Go buy it. They're one of the biggest bands on the planet. And on this record, I believe that they showed why they are. The other record that came out this week was the debut record from DREAMCAR, which, for those of you who don't know, is the collaboration project between the male members of No Doubt and AFI's lead vocalist, Davey Havok. This is my album of the week for sure. I think it is absolutely great. I think it is so, so much fun. As the guys on That's Not Metal said, it sounds like guys who love the 80s just playing the things that they love from the 80s and having fun with it. But it's not just all nostalgia. It's actually really well-written songs. The song on there called After I Confess, which is one of the biggest choruses of the year, probably one of the better songs of the year, and we've had a phenomenal year as far as music goes. So an absolutely fantastic record. Go and check it out. I didn't expect this record to be as good as it is, and I'm so glad that it is as good as it is. So go and check out my reviews of those records in depth over on my YouTube channel. Once again, I will only say this one more time, I promise. youtube.com/Christian Doyle Reviews. Go and do it. Hit subscribe over there. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you've probably already seen the reviews. So me saying all this is pretty pointless. So we're going to wrap up this podcast for the week. This one has been a short one just due to the lack of stuff going on in rock and metal this week, and me not doing this collaboratively this week has meant that I'm not really getting your guys' input on these topics, which is a shame because I always love doing that, but I just didn't have the time to do it this week. So this week in reviews, I'm going to be reviewing the deluxe edition of Blink-182's record California. It's a full new record basically, so I can't wait to hear that. I've only listened to 2 songs from it and they both sound phenomenal. And I'm also going to be listening to the very highly anticipated record from Linkin Park titled One More Light, a record that I'm not expecting to be good at all, but I'm willing to be surprised. So look out for that on the YouTube channel. I will be overviewing them again next week on the podcast, but if you want the full in-depth review of those records, that will be this week on the YouTube channel. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the podcast today on YouTube. Thanks for listening to it on iTunes. Please hit subscribe on both those platforms. Leave a review, comment on the YouTube video. And once again, thank you guys so much. I love doing these podcasts. So much fun to me. And next week, we will be back with the full format, doing it collaboratively. And I will see you guys then. Thanks for watching. No, wow, that was horrible. Did you hear that brain fart right there? Anyway, thanks for watching on YouTube, guys. Thanks for listening on iTunes. And I'll see you guys next time. Fresh Currents.